Hi everyone, you're on the HodlCast. This is today is August 18th, and we're going to look at the lawsuit against AT&T filed by Mr. Terpin this week. And so he was a victim of one of these SIM card hackings. These are not uncommon. So what it is some hacker contacts AT&T, uses social engineering to pretend that he is the person that he's targeting, and gets the AT&T employee to transfer the phone number, like port the phone number over to his phone. And then when he gets that, he can get into your crypto accounts if you don't have a lot of 2FA on it. So it's happened to a lot of people I know, and it seems to happen over and over to the same people. So Mr. Turpin, he's a well-known member of the crypto community, and he has a PR firm called Transform. He's worked with many crypto tech companies, including MarketWire, Social Radius, Bid Angels, Bitcoin Syndicate, and Coin Agenda. And his lawsuit is for a whopping $224 million. So he lost 24 million from the hack, and then there was hefty punitive damages added on to this. He hired one of the most decorated trial attorneys that he can. So if anyone's going to bring this case to the finish line, I think he's got one of the best lawyers, Pierce O'Donnell of Greenberg Glusker. And he's been called one of the 100 most influential lawyers in America by the National Law Journal, California's top entertainment lawyers, MVP of the year by Law 360. So just reading the complaint, you can tell this guy is, he means business. And in the complaint, it says that Mr. Turpin was victimized by not one, but two of these type of attacks. And after the first one, he would have changed phone companies, except AT&T told him, very convincingly, that they had upped their security for him and this would not be able to happen a second time. But then it happened again. So it's thought that the operator that ported his phone number might have been in cahoots with the hacker too. The complaint goes on to compare what the AT&T employee did to port the phone number to be the same as a hotel giving not only the key card of someone's room, but actually the keys to the safe as well. So the SIM card attacks, basically, the complaint alleges that AT&T subjects have been the subject of more, or AT&T customers, they've had more privacy violations than any other phone company. And Electronic Frontier Foundation recently called out AT&T because of the hypocrisy in their Internet Bill of Rights, when in fact AT&T has been one of the few have done more to combat privacy and network neutrality than AT&T. So they're saying one thing and then they're working behind the scenes to get rid of privacy. And as a common carrier, they have a duty to protect customer proprietary information and confidential personal information. And the phone companies have to have effective safeguards to protect against unauthorized use or disclosure of this personal information. And the rules limit what AT&T can disclose to a third party without first getting any customer approval, with the exception of law enforcement. They can give anything. The law enforcement always is allowed to get whatever they want. On April 8th, 2015, the FCC fined AT&T $25 million for violating all of these privacy rules, and apparently they handed over 280,000 customer personal information over to thieves. The investigation showed that their call center employees were giving out names, phone numbers, social security numbers to unauthorized third parties, who then used this information to unlock codes for the cell phones. And it also came out that the criminals were often paying the employees to get the information. AT&T now has a heightened reporting requirement where it has to disclose any breaches to the FCC within 15 days of discovering them. And the complaint also quoted a Motherboard article that said that SIM swapping consists of tricking a provider like AT&T or T-Mobile into transferring the target's phone number to a SIM card that's controlled by the criminal. Once they get the phone number, the fraudster can leverage it to reset the victim's password and break into their online accounts. And certainly, cryptocurrency users are a big target here. And in some cases, this works even if the accounts are protected by two-factor authorization. And the kind of attack, it's known as a port out scam, and it's relatively easily pulled off, and it's become very widespread. And I can certainly attest to that. I'm in a Facebook group with, with actually this plaintiff, and I don't know how many others, probably close to 100 that have had this happen. And it seems like every week a new person is added into the group, and it's awful. And it's awful that there so far has been no recourse for people that have it happen. And they've lost, a lot of money has been lost this way, or, gained by hackers this way. And the cell phone companies are not doing anything. So I'm really glad that this lawsuit is brought, and that it's, by someone with, able to pay for a really good lawyer to take it all the way through. Mr. Terpin also alleges that AT&T should have been protected against the type of hacking, since they're well aware of the risk, which absolutely, yes, they know that this is going on. They're doing nothing to prevent it. So, they're cooperating with criminals. And in my mind, they're just as bad as the criminals, since they're being so negligent. There's no internal procedure to safeguard against the employee porting the number, and they have each employee. So everyone at every store, every call center around the world can just give your phone number to a hacker. So, a hacker can easily just start working there, or just pay one of these people at the call center and, get your phone number ported. So they need to have something like, the way that we have multi-sigs in crypto, they need something like that, where if you're going to port a phone number, 5 people at AT&T need to examine it and make sure it's the real person that you're porting it for. I guess a lot of information about how these hacks came about came from, there was a mother in Michigan who called the police on her son. She heard him talking on the phone pretending to be an AT&T customer service agent. And then when they went and investigated, they found he had people's names from all over the world, and a lot of stuff in his bedroom that, was evident that he was doing this type of hack. Nice of his mom to call the cops on him, but anyway. So Mr. Terpin, he had a first hack on June 11th of 2017. His phone just suddenly wouldn't work, and it took him a couple days to be able to contact AT&T, or for them to, figure out what happened with it. And it showed that there was 11 attempts in AT&T stores for someone to change the number. And on the 12th attempt, they did it. It said the hackers scoured his personal information, including phone calls, text messages, and they got access to his crypto accounts. They stole his identity on Skype, and they convinced one of his clients to make a payment to the hacker as well. So this is something the hackers do this all the time. They'll contact people on your Facebook, and it looks to those people like it's you messaging them. They might have a bit of an accent or something like that in the way they're typing to tip the person off. But if it's something, maybe just warn everyone in your family, if you have crypto accounts, don't ever send anything. Or if, I'm not going to just tell everyone, I'm never going to contact you asking for money. So if that happens, it means I'm being hacked. One of my friends that had this happen, the guy that they tried to contact was, also pretty deep in the crypto community, and he knew exactly what was going on. So he was able to contact his friend and kind of had fun with the hacker a little bit throughout it, and they recorded it. But it still didn't do anything to get the money back. So finally, AT&T, on the June 11th hack, they cut it off, and they notified, or Mr. Terpin notified AT&T that he'd lost a lot of money, and AT&T promised that they put these enhanced security protections onto his account. But, obviously they didn't, because it happened again on January 7th, 2018. His phone just went dead, and an employee in the store in Connecticut ported his wireless number to the imposter in violation of this commitment to enhance security. And then this time the hackers stole $24 million worth. So when his phone went dead, he immediately called AT&T on his wife's phone to cancel the account, and the employees were so slow. They didn't have fraud protection open on a Sunday. They had to wait till Monday morning, and the employee that hacked the number, they had to see all kinds of warnings on the screen and the need for heightened vigilance and requiring a 6-digit password. But in the complaint, it said that employee was not reprimanded, not fired, nothing. Like, they just didn't do their job. It led to this giant loss and no consequence. And then the claims for relief against AT&T. So the first claim, it focuses on the unenforceability of AT&T's customer agreement and says that the whole agreement is unconscionable to public policy. And the complaint actually is really beautiful in how it goes through and picks out all the parts of AT&T's customer agreement that are just, crazy. Some of it just says basically like it absolves AT&T from everything. I'm not going to go through each thing. I did write a blog on it where I kind of did highlight some of the more interesting language, but basically AT&T takes no responsibility. They, and it's so Mr. Turpin is saying that agreement is unenforceable because it's tainted with illegality and the contract as a whole can't be enforced. And there's also an arbitration clause in the contract. So they're saying that because the whole contract can't be enforced, the arbitration clause can't be enforced too. So that'll be the crux of this whole complaint. If that arbitration clause can be overpowered, then it can stay in court. And then I suspect any jury that understands what happened here is going to be way more on Mr. Turpin's side than AT&T's side. But if it goes to arbitration, we won't get to see it, and it won't set any precedent for future cases. Second claim for relief is based on unauthorized disclosure of customer information. And it basically says that a common carrier is liable to anyone if they injure them for the full amount of damages along with reasonable attorney fees. And the third claim is for assisting unlawful access to a computer under California Penal Code 502. And this was allegedly violated when AT&T handed over Mr. Turpin's personal information after they already were put on notice that the information was vulnerable for attack, and they failed to require that 6-digit passcode. The fourth, fifth, and sixth claims, they look at AT&T. I guess they violated, sorry, the fly in here, those damn no-see-ums in Florida. So California has this unfair competition law and unlawful business practices. And so since AT&T told every one of its customers that it had certain security features that clearly it didn't have, they violated California's unfair competition law, unlawful business practices. There's a claim for fraud in there. They told Mr. Terpin his information was safe. They knew that it wasn't. He violated the California Consumer Legal Remedies Act, and that's where they say it was used for unfair method of competition, deceptive acts, and so any kind of practice that's intended to get you to lease a phone from them based on a lie, that's unfair, that's deceptive, that's fraudulent. So the fact they told him that everything was going to be safe and it wasn't, they lied. So the eighth claim is of direct concealment because AT&T knew its data security measures were grossly inadequate and that employees could easily bypass the whole system, and they did nothing to protect their clients. And that's, I think, the crux of what needs to change here. Like they have to do something where the employees can't port the phones anymore. And I think this lawsuit, hopefully it's enough to scare AT&T and every other phone provider into changing what they're doing, their practices. And then the remaining claims are for misrepresentation, negligence, negligent supervision and training, negligent hiring, breach of contract, focusing on the privacy policy and all the information that they're supposed to hold private that they gave to the hacker, breach of implied contract, breach of covenant of good faith and fair dealing, violation of California's Consumer Records Act for inadequate security. So they did not leave a single stone unturned here. They went after them for everything. And in terms of the prayer for relief, they're looking for the general damages, $24 million, punitive damages for 9 times the amount of general, which in Florida, you can only get 3 times punitive damages of what the general are. 9 times is, it's a pretty high expectation, but I think it's put in there. They probably won't recover the full 9. I mean, who am I to say? If it ends up going to a jury, the jury could certainly not be happy with AT&T over this, but if they go to arbitration, I think there's a general rule that courts follow of that 3 times the punitive. It has to be really, really egregious to get over that, or even to get punitive in general. You have to show like gross negligence, which I think here, we have it. They were grossly negligent to let this happen. In terms of preliminary injunctive relief, they're asking for a restraining order from AT&T continuing to engage in unfair competition, unfair practices, violating the privacy policy, and other actions. They're asking for a declaration that the agreement in its entirety is unenforceable and unconscionable against public policy. They're looking for attorney fees, restitution, disgorgement of wrongfully obtained profits, and injunctive relief, a declaration that AT&T's conduct violated the California Legal Remedies Act, and for interest and costs of the lawsuit, and other such relief that the court deems proper. So I really, really hope he wins on this. It's just seeing every week these new people coming in that are getting the same kind of hack. It's, I think, the biggest problem out there right now in crypto. And, it is a problem that can easily be solved by keeping your Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency in cold storage. Then the hacker, they can still get into your Facebook. They can still ask your mom to send Bitcoin. They can do all that kind of stuff. And it's really a big pain to try and get it all rectified once you've lost access to your Skype and everything. But if you have your Bitcoin offline, they can't steal that. So I guess the overall message here is, keep your Bitcoin in cold storage, and let's really hope that this lawsuit moves forward so that the phone companies are forced to put some kind of heightened security where employees can't go porting the phone numbers. Anyway, that's it for tonight. Thank you.